Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally time to run Mama's Mopar, new 451 cubic inch big block Mopar built by these folks here at Performance Research. We're going to light this thing up and see how she does. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this build or with this project, Mama's Mopar is a 1973 Dodge Charger owned by Katrina Bell. We've done a number of videos on this vehicle, and she bought it about a year and a half ago and has had a good time with it. But the tired 400 cubic inch big block smog era motor that's in there left a little bit to be desired when it came to performance. Carburetor issues, heating issues, exhaust leak issues, oil leak issues, blah, 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 blah. It had some issues. So, along that process, it became kind of an idea that we should probably build her a new motor to be able to fully enjoy this new hot rod of hers. So, thus became this process. So what you see before you here is a 1976 Mopar 400 block, and basically a set of cast iron, no bells, no whistles, Mopar big block heads. They are motorhome heads, but nothing real serious. Nothing's really seriously been done here. There's not a lot of modification that's been done. As far as to the heads, they are a little bit worked, but nothing serious. Nothing really beyond what the normal stuff would happen as far as bowl blending goes. So we didn't do anything crazy. There's no super crazy trickery that's happening underneath these valve covers. Inside the belly of this thing, we have a crankshaft and rods out of a 440 Mopar. And on the top of those rods, we have a set of Icon pistons. So, pump gas motor, nothing crazy aggressive as far as the build goes. What we're going for here is very streetable, usable, but still fun on the track, 451 cubic inch stroker kit. Now, what's interesting about this is kind of the tail end of a multi-part series that Joe at Performance Research and I have been filming over the last year and a half or so of different big block builds that we have done over that time period across all the brands. So we have done a 454 cubic inch Chevy. We have done that in the GMC truck. We did a 455 cubic inch Oldsmobile. Now that is going into an F85 Olds. Unfortunately, we haven't had the time to get to that part yet. That build will be going on at some point in time in the future, but we have run that on the dyno. We've also run my 455 Pontiac, which we've also filmed. And that car obviously hasn't had a chance to be put back together yet either. But we have the dyno results of that. So this is a 451 cubic inch big block Mopar. So across all of the brands, we have some very, very similar data that we'll be able to show you in a future episode. We're not going to cut that in with this, about what all of these motors can make with basically stock-ish parts. Legit actual dyno numbers, because unfortunately in the engine building and dyno running world, there's a lot of things that are not exactly above board, and we want to show you legitimate numbers and legitimate success. So really excited to light this thing up and begin the break-in process, and then we'll see what this guy produces. So Joe, if you have seen previous videos from here at Performance Research, you know Joe. He's our resident engine builder guy over here. And we're ready to light this thing up. Well, we've already lit this thing up technically.
We're ready to light up again.
Ready to actually start pulling on this thing. First one you've done with these, huh? First 451 stroker?
Yes. We've done a big block Mopar in the past, but it was a bracket race deal, 572 aftermarket block, Indy heads, Indy everything. It was a totally nothing like this.
That was more of a money is no object kind of build.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was an expensive motor, but it turned out really well. Right.
This is a money is an object build. We're trying to stay very true to form here. So I mentioned earlier in the video that you and I have been doing kind of a big block horsepower competition.
The iron head deal.
Yes, the iron headed big block wars. And this is kind of the last one on the bunch. We've done Pontiac, we've done Chevy, we haven't done Ford, I guess. We haven't done a big block Ford yet.
No, I'm doing one right now. It's a Cobra Jet. Iron head deal. That'd be perfect. 460.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So stay tuned.
But
we'll clue you in that.
You know, I'd have to talk him into.
Right, letting us videotape it?
Well, dynoing it. We're not, you know, we're doing the short block assembly, we're doing the cylinder heads, and then he wants to do the rest of the motor himself, which is fine. That's typical, you know, a lot of our customers do that. But maybe I can persuade him into bringing it back after he's done, and we can dyno that one.
That'd be neat.
Yeah.
So
it'd be more neat if you let me choose a camshaft for it and whatnot.
We got pretty rowdy on this cam.
Yeah, for what it is, we pushed the envelope a little bit. We had a lot of stall in the car, so we figured we might as well use it up.
Yeah, it's it definitely has got a lot more angry note. I'll cut you guys to an audio video. The exhaust note is definitely a lot choppier, more aggressive than.
I like the way it idles.
It sounds rowdy. It definitely sounds rowdy with the side pipes and the mufflers on that thing.
Good.
It's gonna definitely get attention. So
and it'll idle like real low. I mean, shit, I had it.
It was idling at like 600 RPMs.
Well, a little more now, but yeah, 650 to 700. It was actually still running.
Yeah.
Comfortably idled, you know, 750 to 850, no problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
With it warm, with it cold, it won't idle that low, but with it warmed up,
so
800 RPMs, it sounds damn good, I think.
It does. It sounds real good. I'm really looking forward to what this thing sounds like when it's under full chat. I think it's going to sound.
We'll see. You know, we are using, you know, like you've said in the past, they're heads off of an RV. They're
right.
Not anything special at all. So that's really going to limit what our peak output is.
But that's also a portion of the reason we're doing this. Is like, you know, for the last 50 years, every purist from Pontiac and Chevy and Mopar like, our factory stuff is the best, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All right, well, prove it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're bolted on a set of basic 6X Pontiac heads, which are, you know, pretty good Pontiac cast iron heads. They weren't really overly worked. There wasn't anything crazy done to them.
Mm-hmm.
The cast iron heads on the 454 Chevy motor, that was basically just out of the box Chevy heads.
Which you would have used back in the day if you wanted to go fast with a Chevrolet.
Right. So could we have gotten a little bit better cast iron cylinder heads for these? Probably.
I have no idea what they would have had from the factory. I don't know a whole lot about these motors. If there is a better head that they used for the 440.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, I know that in terms of, you know, like the 6-pack and everything, there's a little bit of a difference there. So there probably is a better factory head out there than what we're using. but it can't be by much. I mean,
Yeah. We'll see.
the Mopars have always just been low RPM torque monsters, just like
Pontiacs.
pretty much just like all the rest of them.
Yeah.
Oldsmobile, Pontiac, they're all the same way.
So, the biggest question of the day is, what do you think you're going to see on this? Now, let's do an apples to apples here. So, all big blocks, all cast iron. 3 out of the 4 are flat tappets. The Chevy was a roller, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and it did RPM better and breathe better on the higher end.
Not really. It did 5,500. It was done.
Okay. So it's won the horsepower so far.
I think so.
Yeah.
Torque was real close with the olds.
Edelbrock intake on the Pontiac, on the Chevy, and on the Olds, and on this. All 4 of them will have run on this Demon carburetor that's your house carburetor. I think all of them are on MSD billets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
As far as bolt-on stuff goes, and they've all really been run on cheap
cheap
headers.
crappy headers.
that we've made them fit the dyno room.
Yeah.
We unfortunately, I thought we did, but we don't. I thought we had. So typically we have a whole pile of dyno headers that are made for this room to fit different motors that have thermocouplers built into them, so we can monitor EGTs for all 8 cylinders. And every freaking motor you bring me, something's weird about it. We
Right.
can't use the headers we have, but we have high port Pontiac headers. We've got big block Chevy headers, small block Chevy headers, SB2 headers. We've got headers, small block Ford, big block Ford. Pretty much everything except this and the D-Port Pontiac, which is the last 2 we did.
Right.
And the Oldsmobile. So we had to make headers for all 3 of those motors.
And we got creative with a set of Jegs house brand headers, and they're not really gonna
Speaking of house brand Jegs headers, the paint on them lasts, and I can confirm this, and I can prove it because I have it on my phone on video. That the paint lasts about maximum of 10 seconds of runtime, and then it starts to burn off and create tons of smoke. Last night, fired it up for the first time ever, and it smoked out the entire dyno room. It was just the paint. You can see them now. They didn't look like this when we pulled them out of the box, obviously.
Yeah, these headers are essentially brand new. They have like 30 minutes of runtime on them, 40 minutes of runtime on them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and they look like they're 100 years old.
Now, we didn't go through the curing process of a set of headers.
If there's a
supposed to be
curing process, I don't know what it is, because literally 10 seconds, and if they were burning, the paint was burning off. So, fired up for what? A second, shut it off, hit it with a
Well,
bullet
especially
switch.
if you're using a flat tappet. You
Yeah,
don't have an option.
you
You're
don't
going
have
to
an
wipe your cam out if you
Right.
don't do it correctly.
Right, you gotta fire it up and get after it. You can't let it idle.
So maybe you're supposed to fire up the motor without the headers on, with manifolds on, and then swap back into the headers instead of the whatever. Anyway,
I don't know, pull up the literature and read
we'll
it.
put a product review on this. Unfortunately, Jegs, you're not winning any awards on the house brand here.
I'm not joking with the 10-second thing. You can sit there with a stopwatch.
We'll show you the video.
It starts smoking within 10 seconds.
Biggest question. What are you thinking numbers wise?
I don't think it's gonna make as much as a Pontiac.
Really?
for some reason, yeah, I felt really confident about it going through it, but now, I don't know, I just kind of feel like it's, I don't know, we'll see. I don't know, it just doesn't have the snappy kind of feel that the Pontiac had, but the Pontiac had a smaller cam in it, so that would make it snappier,
Right.
So, this one might run a little better above 5,000 RPM than the Pontiac did. It might not make as much lower end torque. I don't know. I mean, we put a lot more duration in this camshaft than we did in the Pontiac. But if you kind of need duration if you don't have very good cylinder heads, if you want to try to, make them work well.
But that's
So-
also going to cut down our amount of air we can flow on the higher end, because these heads are not.
The duration is going to help. with
Right,
that.
but the heads are going to cut us down above 5,000 RPMs as far as the actual flow goes.
Right.
So,
I mean, but, duration helps combat that, I guess is my point.
right.
But only
Plus-
to a certain point. I mean, and lift with these heads, I mean, 500 lift, at that point, you can pretty much, if you had it on the flow bench, you open the valve 500 thousandths, you can take the damn thing completely out at that point, it won't make a difference. I mean, they really don't flow that. That's pretty much it.
The Pontiac, for those of you who haven't seen the video, which I will link to that if you want to watch that, preface that I was using older camera technology and it's not nearly as polished as what it is now, but the Pontiac made 440 horsepower and 515 foot-pounds of torque. And then it was over at like 5,500 RPMs.
And that's a lot. That really surprised us. I
Yes.
did not think it was going to make nearly that much.
And it's legitimate numbers too, not like it makes whatever.
They're about the same size motor. The thing that worries me the most, I really think that the cylinder heads are really going to be the choking point here, and that's just going to result in a lower number. I don't think it's going to make as much torque as the Pontiac did. Horsepower, I don't know. It ought to make over 400.
So what are you thinking, like 400 horsepower and
I don't know, mate. The other thing about this motor is we're not 100% sure what the compression ratio is. We weren't really in control of that. We know for a fact that Pontiac was like 9.6 to 1, something
Right.
like that. We don't really know what this is. We were hoping that it was middle nines, but we didn't get to choose the pistons or the ring package or anything like that.
right?
We chose pistons. We got a slick ring package for your motor. There was a little bit extra tricks we had at our disposal when we did your Pontiac, so that we didn't have doing this one. So I think the biggest thing is the uncertainty of compression and just the fact that the heads probably don't flow as much as the Pontiacs do. That's why I think it's going to make less. I'd love it to make more. It does sound good. I think it sounds better.
It definitely sounds rowdier, that's for sure. It definitely sounds
Who
rowdier.
knows? Maybe once it opens up and starts, we haven't really messed with it a whole lot, so, I don't think I'll tell you this, I don't think it's going to make as much torque. I don't think it's going to make 500 foot-pounds of torque. I think it'll make probably around 460-ish. And probably 420, 430 horse.
So similar ball game with the Pontiac with the horsepower, but much less as far as the torque goes. So your 430, 460 is your numbers.
We'll make it like 420.
There's a lot of variables here that we don't know the answers to.
It's going to make over 400. We'll put it that way. And it's probably going to make... It's going to make over 400. It's going to make over 450 foot-pounds of torque. We'll put it that way.
I'm going to be cautiously optimistic not so cautious, but more optimistic. I'm gonna hope for somewhere in like the 450 range horse, because I think that the extra cam is gonna let it breathe better. Now I will completely agree.
That was the idea.
I will completely agree that I think these heads will choke this thing down.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
we
gonna.
were hoping to combat that with the extra cam
Right.
to level the playing field a little bit, but there's only so much you can do.
And full disclosure, how long these cast iron heads stay on this motor is kind of up for grabs.
Yeah.
Because there's a very good chance these are going to get swapped out for a set of Edelbrock heads that literally cost basically the same as getting iron heads reworked.
Mm-hmm.
So, which will flow way better than these iron heads, and they weigh a quarter of as much. So
That's true.
at that point in time, we can upgrade that, and that will pay dividends later on down the road. So I'm gonna say 450 horsepower. I just feel like it's gonna be there,
I hope you're right.
and I think it's gonna make less torque than the Pontiac. I think it's gonna be like 480. I think I'm gonna go with 450, 480 is where I want to be.
Okay. I hope you're right. I hope it does make that.
I don't think it's gonna make 500. I think when the Pontiac made 515, I think we were all standing around like, huh?
Yeah.
And it actually, realistically, also, if you remember, like we were very surprised what that motor made when it was before we took it apart.
Before you even did anything to it.
It made like 460 when it was not happy.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll see. I don't know.
And maybe this is too much carburetor for it. This carburetor's never failed us,
Right.
but we'll see.
It's 4 cubic inches off of what the.
Yeah, it's essentially
Other
the same size. It's not even, it's irrelevant.
I'm also hoping this thing gets like past 5,500 RPMs before it falls in its face. I'd love to see this thing breathe up to like $6,000. Just that extra little.
The
oomph.
cam will do it, but the heads, that's what's gonna.
Right. Well,
I don't know. Well, I honestly, I really have no idea what this thing's gonna. This is too hard to guess for me.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to do it. So
That's true.
let's give this thing a shot. See what she does.
All right.
Come on, baby. Make me proud. All right, Mama's Mopar, 451 cubic inch stroker on dyno here at Performance Research. We're gonna light this thing up and start beating on it and see what she does. If it explodes, you guys will all see it.
I hope it doesn't explode.
Then I get to clean up their whole dyno room, because that's always been part of the offer.
That's always been the joke. Is there's a dyno cleanup fee as well.
Yeah, all of the crappy, terrible things that I bring over here and we make you dyno, that if it explodes, Bob tells me that I have to. I have to clean up the dyno room. And if
You
it's-
own both halves.
And if it splits in half, I own both halves.
Yeah.
Bob, I will remember that for the rest of my life. Thank you. All right, let's go. There's like something up there.
Well, as you can see, we have a different carburetor on it now. The Demon, well, the first pull we did, it didn't run as good as we thought it was going to, and it was running pretty lean. So we had another carburetor laying around. It's a little bit smaller, and we're hoping that it works a little bit better, fattens it up a little bit, and see if maybe we get a little bit more out of it than what we did the first time around. We are fighting an issue where it just seems to shut off like a switch at 5,000 RPM. Just totally, just takes a poop. And I don't know. We went through our program, reprogrammed the MSD box, thinking maybe we're hitting the rev limiter. We're just going to play with a couple things, but we don't want to put any more load on this thing with it running real lean like it was. So if we're going to continue to make pulls with it, we want to do it in a safe manner. And we were in the high 13s with the Demon. That's pretty lean for a carburetor. So if we can get that down a little bit to we're a little bit more safe, I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we continue doing pulls to straighten out whatever's going on here. Hopefully it's not just that it's done and the heads can't flow anymore. Hopefully there's something else that's going on, because I'd like to see more than 5,000 RPM out of it. But it ran smooth until then, but you know, we'll see. So we're gonna try this guy, and hopefully it fattens it up, like I said, and try to sort out what's going on here and see if we can get some answers.
Well, it is day 2. We are back at Performance Research. And as you can see, we still have the Momma's Mopar Big Block on the dyno. We are fighting an air-fuel ratio issue. We ran it with the original Demon, that is the house carburetor, which runs on everything. And it was running a bit leaner than what we wanted it to do. Swapped from that over to a out-of-the-box Holley 850, and that actually made it worse instead of better. So we have now swapped to another Holley that we have the ability to do a little bit of playing with, and it did get better. Our air-fuel ratios are much more attractive. They're in the 12.5 range, which is right where we want to be. However, we are still battling a little bit of a weird breakup at like 5,000 RPMs, which you can hear in the clips. When it gets up there in the RPM, it breaks apart. So we're trying to figure out what's going on with that. Hopefully that's not just completely out of breath at 5,000 RPMs. But we're going to work on that a little bit more. And then at some point in time, we're going to swap over to the EFI system here shortly and see how that thing runs with the Sniper EFI. But got a couple hours in this carb situation. It's one of the things that's nice about having this dyno set up is they have the ability to pull air-fuel ratios and all kinds of diagnostic data. So when you're troubleshooting, you have access to all that. Versus if you put it in a car and you drive down the road and it misbehaves, you have to be paying attention to that misbehavior, figuring out why it's doing that, go back to the shop, adjust what you need to adjust or what you think you need to adjust, put it all back together again, drive it again. If it fixes it, great. If it doesn't, do it all over again, rinse, repeat. That's one of the major benefits of being able to run things on a dyno like this. You can find oil leaks, you can find vacuum leaks, you can find all kinds of running issues, so that once you're done with all this stuff, you can just take the thing back, stick it in the hole, and turn the key, and it works. And you know that it's tuned and ready to rock and roll to its best potential. So it's a pain, but it's really nice to be able to get this done because it allows us to troubleshoot all this stuff before the engine's in the car. If we do need to do something, major overhaul-wise, it's much more easy to do when it's still in the engine shop than when it's in the car. So we're gonna keep on battling this thing, and we're gonna see where we get. Numbers wise, we're a little lower than what we wanted to be, but we're still pretty happy with where our torque numbers are. The dyno graph looks pretty nice as far as the actual power band. It just doesn't go quite as far as we want it to go. So we're gonna keep on plugging away on that and see where we get.